Hello, and welcome to Appendix A, a brief rundown of Crusader Kings 2. CK2 is a paradox grand strategy game set in the Middle Ages, from the year 769 up to 1453. It's primarily a game about people, kings, bishops, dukes, noblemen, and noblewomen of all ranks. A player controls a particular character until they die. Then that character's primary heir becomes the player character. Over the long game, it's more controlling a family, a dynasty, than it is about any individual character. Every character has opinions towards and from every other character. These are modified by having shared or opposing traits, having similar or differing cultures, religions, and loads of other factors. Each of these characters has a basic list of traits that's semi-randomly generated, including vices, virtues, neutral character traits, and some other traits like genetic differences. These traits add or subtract to the 5 primary statistics of the character, just like the stat line in any RPG. So there's 5 of these stats. The first is diplomacy. Now, diplomacy represents interpersonal skills. High diplomacy characters are able to improve everyone's opinion of them. People tend to like them more. Martial represents generalship and military organization. High martial characters raise larger armies from their lands, and they're also better generals in the field. They get big bonuses. Stewardship represents financial acumen. High stewardship characters have more prosperous realms. They gain more gold in taxes. Intrigue represents ability in underhanded dealings. High intrigue characters can arrange for unfortunate accidents to happen to rivals or threats at home and abroad. They can also better prevent such incidents from happening to themselves. Learning represents academic knowledge, which, of course, in a medieval context, mostly means theological knowledge. High learning characters make better churchmen, and their realms tend to get faster technology spread. Each character also has an education stat. In one of the 5 traits, there's 4 levels of success in the education, and having a higher education will bring them large bonuses to their primary education stat and small bonuses to a few others. Now, one of the most important relationships in the game is between a player and their vassals, a vassal and liege relationship. There are 5 simplified levels of title in Crusader Kings 2, from barons to counts, dukes, kings, and emperors. At each of these levels, there are 4 government types, which are city or republic type, church type, feudal, and tribal. Tribal tends to be to upgrade to feudal in the later game, but a lot of areas start as tribal holdings. City and church titles above the baron rank are rare, but they do exist. The game has prince-bishops, it has merchant republics. Of course, the Pope is a high-level church holding. People holding a title of one level can, and almost always do, have vassals of the lower levels. Characters are limited in their personal holdings, they're domain. So you can't directly control your entire realm. So you have to delegate. So a character will have delegates, bishops, mayors. A duke will have counts who have their own vassal bishops and mayors. And a king, in addition to having all of those, will have vassal dukes with their own vassals. The number of vassals a character can have is also limited, so an emperor in a very large realm will have to have vassal dukes, even kings, with their own vassals. You can't just delegate everything to counts. Now, landed characters have a council of advisors. The most powerful vassals will expect to sit on the council and will be quite upset if they're denied a spot. There's one counselor for each stat, and counselors with a high stat in the relevant field will be quite a bit more successful. So it's important to put your vassals in the right position, and it can be worth leaving important vassals off the council if you have other courtiers who would make significantly better advisors. The chancellor is the court's diplomat. The marshal organizes the realm's armies. Stewards deal with the realm's finances. Spy masters control the intrigue functions in a realm. The court chaplain is your court's religious advisor. There's a few basic currencies in the game. Each of them have different uses. Gold is fairly simple. It's a character's wealth. It's used to pay armies. It's used to build and improve your holdings. Characters with very little gold will be unable to keep armies in the field for very long, but a large gold surplus allows characters to maintain armies better, to improve their realm, and potentially to hire mercenaries to fight their wars for them and save their own armies for emergencies. Prestige is a little bit more intangible. Characters who control important titles will slowly gain prestige. Winning battles and wars and taking glorious actions can gain you more prestige. Prestigious nobles are looked upon more highly by others. A few actions cost prestige, like revoking a vassal's title. Cost prestige. Tribal characters can use it to build certain improvements in their holdings. It's a very important stat. Piety represents a character's relationship with their church. High piety is quite highly respected by churchmen. It's increased by controlling or vassalizing church holdings, especially well-developed church holdings, by taking righteous religious actions, and by upholding your faith through politics and war. Piety can also be spent to gain favors from your religious head, and it can be spent to hire holy orders to fight religious wars. When a character dies, their prestige and piety are added to the player's score. The gold passes to their primary heir. Succession is a very important mechanic in a game based around medieval politics. Whenever a landed noble dies, their titles are dealt with based on their succession law. The most common succession laws are primogeniture and gavelkind. Primogeniture gives all titles to the oldest eligible child. Primogeniture inheritances can still be somewhat messy. Secondary heirs can make claims on titles and can launch wars if they have armies to support them. And new heirs often have difficult relations with their vassals. There's a short reign penalty. Heirs that are children or women will have an additional penalty. Children will also need a regent who can control certain things and not let the player have as much freedom of action. But overall, primogeniture keeps the realm fairly strong. Since your primary heir inherits all your holdings, their army will tend to deter claimant wars, and if there is one, they'll be more likely to win them. Gavelkind is quite a different beast. Many areas begin the game with Gavelkind succession, and tribal governments are locked to Gavelkind until they convert to feudalism. Under Gavelkind, titles are split between all the eligible children of the lord. The eldest gains the primary title and the capital, and other titles are split evenly between the eligible siblings. Most of the time, the younger brothers will be vassals of the eldest, but sometimes, if you have multiple highest level titles, they can become independent, and the realm will split on inheritance. Gavelkind successions with large numbers of children tend to be very messy. Each individual child ends up with very little power. While Gavelkind does have some advantages, it's usually quite important to switch to another law as soon as you can. Now, women do have a fairly marginal role in medieval Europe, but the status of women does tend to increase over time, and you can increase your status of women law manually. Under certain laws, they can inherit titles and become playable characters, and of course the wives and daughters of nobles are an important part of the court. Landed characters gain half of their spouse's stats in bonus to their own court stat, and women can participate in plots and help educate children. Marrying daughters to higher-ranking nobles is a useful source of prestige and alliances. Negotiating advantageous marriages for your children and yourself is a very important part of the game. Now, of course, being a grand strategy game, there are a whole lot more mechanics. There's a whole lot of depth to the game. My goal here isn't to act as a tutorial for playing the game in its entirety, just as a basic grounding to give context to my actions and commentary during this series. I hope I've managed to do that, and I hope you enjoy my Let's Play.